All right, guys. I am here with Forrest. How do you say your last name? Knutson?
Knutson.
Knutson. All right. And man, we have never met. This is our first time.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We were introduced by Ashley James. I was on her podcast. I think this week she said it's going to come out, but we did it last week, and we got into talking about some of my issues that I've dealt with. Anxiety, things like that, and how I got out of them. And one of the big ways that I got out of them, or I won't even say get out of it, because I don't believe in getting rid of anxiety, dealing with your anxiety, is I meditate. And she was like, and when she heard me talking about it, she's like, you have to talk to my friend Forrest because you're the meditating guy, right? Like so, and the yogi. So,
that yogi guy.
Yeah, here we are. So tell me about yourself, man. Where did this meditation yogi start for you? How did it get going?
Well, it started with my mom, actually.
Okay.
Because I grew up with stories from her about meditation, about some of her experiences in meditation.
Where did you grow up?
Mostly, it was kind of a consortium of cities. So there was Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Idaho, up in the Panhandle, very close to Canada.
Okay.
Up in the Rockies area.
Okay.
Beautiful place. And she was reading a lot of stories from Lobsang Rampa. So I had her stories, and then I had his stories, and I just thought it was absolutely fascinating. So that's what got me started.
When's the first time was she meditating this whole, was she a meditator and that's what got you into it, or like?
A little bit, not a little bit on and off. She was meditating. And so I would see that, and she would repeat stories to me. She had some experiences while she was carrying me in her womb. She had a recurring vision where she was coming up a set of stairs. And she saw a monk, but the monk was also dressed in armor, kind of a Chinese armor, kind of like the terracotta warriors that you see.
Okay.
But with a shaved head. So obviously a monk was climbing these stairs, and each time she had this dream or this vision, she would see that the person was up higher on the stairway, and then it reached the top and I was born. So that's the story I grew up with.
Okay.
I think it influenced me profoundly.
My wife had a reoccurring theme when she was pregnant with our first son. She got stung in the belly 4 times by a bee.
Wow. And
now that oldest child of mine, my oldest child, has been stung probably 20 times already in his life. He's 9 years old, So like they have this bee thing together, So, I mean, how many times have you been stung by a bee in your whole life?
Yeah, not that many times.
Not 20, know?
Certainly not by the age of 9.
Yeah. So, not the same story, but but a reoccurring theme during pregnancy. So the monk, how did it get there for you? Like, so you have these stories, and then, it's one of those things sometimes in life, right? Like you have, again, kind of different, but you have an alcoholic parent, and one kid goes, I'm never going to touch that shit. Right. And the other kid becomes an alcoholic.
That's right.
Both the same experiences. So sometimes people go, no, never. And sometimes people embrace it. So what made you embrace it?
Oh, I remember I was on a very different path initially.
Okay.
Where not so different. I think you'll readily understand. I was into martial arts.
Okay. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I was trying to figure out my way as a kid, as a man. And I actually did very poorly, and I picked a fight with somebody who was bigger and stronger than me, and I got beat up after school pretty bad.
Okay.
And it was kind of mutual.
I've been beat up a lot too, so it's cool.
And I went home, and I thought, well, whatever you're doing is not working, so you better figure things out. And I really started at that point to dive into this interest that I had in meditation.
Okay.
And I read Autobiography of a Yogi at one point during that during that exploration. And I had been looking around at meditations, and I was kind of disgusted with everything that I was finding, because it was all, it all seemed so airy-fairy kind of, it didn't seem, I just had this idea, this feeling that there was some kind of concrete technique that I could do and it would produce results. And I just couldn't find it. And then I read Autobiography of a Yogi, and he was talking about Kriya Yoga of Lahiri Mahashaya. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. And so I started from there. And that was the descent into the...
How old were you then?
I was 15.
Wow, young.
I had, let's see, was it 15? I think, yeah, because I was 17 when I showed up in Los Angeles and talked to the monks that were there. So it had to be 15 when I read the book.
Okay, so what happened between 15 and 17 then, before you went to LA?
Well, I studied with the organization that Yogananda left behind. So he's the one that wrote Autobiography of a Yogi. So I was studying with him, and through mail, and he'd already passed away, of course.
Okay.
But so I studied his lessons, and I took Kriya through those lessons.
You took what?
Kriya Yoga through those lessons. And then I traveled to Los Angeles. I met the monks that were there. And
when you talk yoga terms, you're going to have to help me, because I don't do yoga.
Yeah,
but I think basically I just practice mindfulness meditation. And sometimes some metta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that when you like think positive thoughts about the other person?
That's right.
Right. Okay. So like those are the two that I do mostly. So, and I try to do them every day. My parents were here for over the weekend, so that gets a little hectic. So, because they have a room in my house where I normally do my meditating.
Oh, wow.
So, so anyway, so yeah, if you talk yoga terms, I might interrupt you and need some help. But so you were doing the Kriya, you said?
Yeah, Kriya, Kriya.
Okay. And then you moved to LA. So go ahead.
Yeah. I eventually moved to LA. I became a monastic. I was doing that I did that for 5 years, and then I left, and I went on a very long search for Lahiri Mahashaya's actual technique, which is slightly different than what I had initially learned. And then, so that was fun. That was a fun journey to find the truth. And
what do you mean by the truth? What's the truth?
Well, the technique that Lahiri Mahashaya designed.
Who's that?
Lahiri Mahashaya is, so he was a yogi.
Okay.
In India, and he put together a technique called Kriya Yoga, and he did that from one of their ancient scriptures called the Bhagavad Gita. And that's a story about warriors. You might like that. So Arjuna got in a war. He and his brothers get in a war, and this is all metaphorical. Right. It's actually talking about structures in the brain and their projection in the body. So a yogi will say that there are 6 chakras. Nowadays, people talk about 7 chakras. That's actually a misnomer. There's 6 chakras, and they're all within the body. And the brain itself is the 7th, what's often called the 7th chakra, or it can also be called a padma, and that just means lotus. And they're talking about the activation of the brain in a very specific manner. Okay. But the projections, so nobody really talks about the chakras this way, but you have a limbic brain. And the limbic brain has emotional content. It has primal urges like sex. And it has very natural visceral reactions like fear.
Is that what I like to call it my lizard brain? Like, is that what we're talking?
That would include your lizard brain. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So it's the deep, old brain, which means it's been around for a very, very long time. And it's a beautiful thing. And so what we're doing in the process, even in the process of mindfulness, and even in the process of metta, is that we are quieting that brain down. And one of the ways that yoga does this very specifically is to put the mind into one of those projections, one of those centers called chakras, and to chant Om into it. And so by doing that, you are short-circuiting the natural process of the limbic brain. And so that energy, which is locked up in the body, then returns to the brain. And that's what people are talking about when they talk about a Kundalini experience and energy comes up the body. It's more than one thing. So they're making unconscious processes conscious, and they're also having that projection return to the brain. And so in that process, your body disappears. But this is getting very deep, very fast.
It's okay. Yeah, go ahead. It's all right.
So
I don't like the shallow end of the pool, Forrest. I like the deep end.
Well, we just jumped right in.
Okay.
Pretty deep stuff. But when that happens, you can have an experience where your body kind of disappears, or it becomes like a shadow or a ghost, and you can barely perceive it. And that's what we call interiorization. And so yoga does this process step by step. And it's a very natural process of interiorization. And it will happen with whatever technique you do, because it's not about yoga. It's about what's actually happening in this process we call meditation.
So, I mean, I've had some very similar experiences. I've had a couple meditating. One very acute time, I would say, when I was really in the middle of my dance with the devil, where I had to lay. I was like, I don't know what I didn't know what else I was going to do, and I just meditated. I just like laid down. I couldn't, and I had this feeling that one would only describe as an out of body experience. You know, probably because of the intense anxiety in the moment as well, right? Like something had to happen.
Right.
I think some people would call it God. I don't, or if what very religious people like would call, they saw Jesus or God or whatever. So I can understand that. But I've also had this experience fighting, like where the intenseness of the fight has put me in a spot where it's just like, almost like you're watching yourself perform.
Right.
Like again, so, but you're saying with the yoga, you create it in a calmness rather than in an intense. I've only had it in intense moments. I've never had it in calm.
Right.
So, it'd be nice to have it in calm.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea. The idea is to have it on purpose and at will. That's the whole point of yoga. But
Okay.
That's a beautiful experience. So you experienced the spherical side of the right side of the brain.
Okay. What? Go ahead. Explain that a little more.
Well, so the yogic tradition talks about the spiritual eye, spherical vision of the spiritual eye. So that's the Ajna chakra, which is in the center of the brain. People will say the Ajna chakra is here, but that's just a reflection. The actual piece of the brain is in the center of the brain. And so that vision is spherical in nature. And you can see this in talks on the brain. So if you, what's his name? I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's a genius when it comes to understanding the left and the right sides of the brain, the left and the right hippocampus in particular. And the left brain is the predator brain in us. And so you can see, because the left, because the brain and the eyes are cross-connected, so you can see this in a bird who will look with its right eye because it's cross-connected. So that's the left side of the brain. They'll look down at the seed that they're going to peck at with the right eye, which is the left brain. So they're using the left brain because that's
right, yeah,
1 point predator brain. I have to eat that one seed. And at the same time they're doing that, nature has divided the brain, because when you're like in a fight, when you strike, you open your raincoat, right? That's when you're vulnerable. And the same thing happens with the animal and the bird. He comes for that one seed, and at that point, he's very, very vulnerable to a predator that might be around him. So nature says, I'm going to give you a right side of the brain, which has a spherical perception, and that's going to give you this layer of protection and awareness, which is not caught up in the predator moment. So you, in your extreme situation, were pushed into that, and you had an experience.
Let me ask you, I mean, I agree. Let me ask you a question. Why are people in the West so, I don't want to, I don't know how to say this correctly. I mean, they'll believe that someone walked on water and came back to life, right? But when you talk about the eye, what'd you call it? The eye in your head, the spherical. Yeah. They're like, you're crazy. Like they'll look at you like, and when you talk about this, like out of body, yada, yada, like they're like, you're nuts, man. What's the matter with you? You believe in all that hokey dokey shit. Right. But they believe like they believe the earth is 6,000. There's a good amount of people that don't believe in evolution, believe the earth is 6,000 years old, believe in a man that died, hung, and came back to life. But that's perfectly rational in their minds.
Sure.
What's going on there? What do you think that is? Like, let's just say they're both delusional a little bit. They both take this stretch, let's say.
Right.
Why is one stretch so accepted over here and this? Because I tend to lean more towards you, like the reason that I meditated and didn't pray was because I don't believe that there's a big man in the sky that actually cares about me, so what
well, it's a cognitive bias, that's the modern term, right? That we believe what we believe because we've been programmed to believe what we believe. But it's actually what we're talking about here is in the Bible, and he said that if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. So that's talking about the one eye.
I believe you even more now, because I believe they're all connected, right? They're all telling us the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like no one's telling us anything different, I don't think. And I believe that they're all metaphors. None of them are actual like events that happen. They just help us move through life. I mean, I'm not arguing that was there a literal Jesus and a Muhammad. Yes, of course. But the lessons that like what you just said.
Right.
So go ahead, keep going. Like they're all connected.
Absolutely. And we only have 4 books, and the John, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, right?
Luke, right.
So there were my understanding. So I have a friend who was a altar boy for a Catholic priest, and he came to. This is kind of a beautiful story. He checked on him. He would check on this priest because the priest was getting quite old, and he actually came and visited him to his house. He ended up living not too far from him, and he came to check on him, and found that he was kind of down, and so he was trying to figure out a way that he could kind of lift the priest's spirits at the end of his life here. And doing mass for a Catholic priest is like you and I wanting to do our daily meditation, but you need an altar boy in order to do it, apparently. And so he offered this priest, he says, I will come. I think it was not every day, but fairly often, and I'll be your altar boy. And he was in his 50s at this point. And so he came, and they became very close. And the priest told him that he was actually a vicar, which is, I believe it was an archbishop.
Okay.
Catholic Church. And that his corner of study was theology, and because of that, he was given access to the very secret private library. And in reading that, he found that there were hundreds of books which were excluded during the Roman time when they consolidated Christianity with politics at that point. So we only have four, that the whole story is not told. So, I mean, if it would be a much different story with hundreds of.
Yeah. I mean, but this, I mean, we'll just go down like if there was a pastor on, I mean, I have a friend who's a very good pastor who just, I mean, his whole goal is theology, right? His life is Christianity. So, I mean, he shoots holes in all of this, you know? so I mean, we could take a direct turn, but why? So I guess back to my question, why do you think that other than the dissonance, right? Like, okay, my dad believes, so I believe. Like, for me, the Eastern philosophies just work much more, right? I'm not bad, right? Like, I'm not a sinner. I don't have to shit on myself to, right? Like for any of this other thing to exist, right? For meditation to work, for like, I don't have to believe anything metaphysical, right? Like, nobody came back to life. Nobody did anything miraculous other than search for enlightenment for me, right? And that is 100% found within me. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody can do it for me. The way that I find, maybe the way that I find enlightenment won't be the way that you find enlightenment. So this just makes way more sense in my brain.
Right.
But it doesn't make as much sense in most people in America's brain. And I think like if we want to deal with the anxiety and the depression and all of these things, which is running rampant, and the addiction and the drug use, right? Like, it's sadness. It's loss of connection.
Yes.
And mostly loss of connection with who we are.
Yeah.
Like, who are we? And we're told from a very early on in our lives, most of us, that we were born in sin, that we were born wrong and bad.
Right.
And now we wonder why people are depressed.
Yeah, well, I think that whole thing about sin is a misunderstanding of the pure message that was originally intended.
I agree.
And I think at some point, some of that was definitely for control.
Of course.
Control your flock, control the people that are listening to that. And it's one of my favorite stories from Europe is actually that the priest had become so strong, so authoritarian, and so hellfire and brimstone preaching that the community actually rebelled, and they started a church of Mother Mary. It was very informal. It was a photograph pinned to the wall of a cave that they were meeting in, and they would sit there and they would pray to the Mother Mary, because they figured if Christ is hellfire and brimstone, well, we'll switch to his mom because she must be better. And the Catholic authorities got.
Well, I don't think Christ is hellfire and brimstone, right? God is.
No, I don't.
Christ was here. Christ saves us from the hellfire, right?
Absolutely. Okay. But the priests, in their interpretation, had become so authoritarian that the people rebelled and started their own little church. And because of that, the Catholic authoritarians were going to crack down and break it up. And a very wise priest within their fold told them, "You do this at your own peril. Don't do that." And so instead of condemning it, they actually embraced it. And so now we have, the Catholic Church is much more open to to that whole scenario.
But so again, like, why? Man, the meditation, right? Like the philosophy that you're talking about here. God, I mean, for me, I do it. I'm better, right? And I don't need anything else.
Absolutely.
Well, because I'm reading Ryan Holiday's, so I would say that I'm kind of like this Buddhist Stoic in a way,
Nice.
More on the intense side of things, probably. Like, I'm not, I believe things need to be difficult for us. I think that's good for us. I don't believe like everything that happens to me in my life is my fault and things like that. And the meditation and the stillness in my life is what gives me the ability to then deal with all of this stuff. So where do you see your meditation? Like where does it fit in for you? Like why even bother?
Well, for me, it's everything. It's consumed my whole life. So it's my morning, it's my lunch, it's my dinner, it's my sleep, it's everything. So I have a YouTube channel and I teach.
Right.
And the primary thing that I teach is heart rate variability, because I think it's the essence of the Kriya Yoga that I practice for myself. And it's the very first thing that everybody needs in order to really internalize and go inside, is to lower the breath rate. And so we don't often hear about that in just a purely mindful practice, but it will actually happen over a span of years. If you continue with your mindfulness, your body will automatically reduce, and you'll begin to reduce that breath rate. And you're probably doing it already, but being mindful of the breath reducing will speed up your interiorization and your experience of peace and meditation. So it's really simple. You just keep your breath under 7 breaths per minute. And there's 2 more things that I talk about to create, to really kind of box you in. And we're trying to box ourselves into the dorsal vagal nerve, the dorsal vagal aspect of the vagus nerve, because that's the parasympathetic nerve, and that will give you the experience of a deep meditation.
Explain that a little more. So some people, maybe let's just me even, I don't fully understand what you're saying. Go ahead.
Okay, so you have a sympathetic system. So that's when we're going to jump up and run because danger is here, right? We have to have that because danger is still around. And then we also have a parasympathetic system, and that's going to slow us down. And so when we're in a very peaceful mood or a loving mood, like with your kids, for example, you're going to be working with your parasympathetic nerve. And in meditation, that's the nerve that we want to stimulate, because it's going to lower the breath rate and it's going to lower the heart rate as well. And so when those 2 things slow down, the body machinery becomes quiet. And so now you have what I call the 80-20 rule. And so that means that, so the 80-20 rule works like this. There are more signals coming back to the brain than the brain is sending out. And so you have a disproportion, right? And what that means is it's easier to control the brain from the body than to try and just control your brain. So a lot of people come into meditation, they're like, I can't stop my thoughts. I can't stop my thoughts. You're not supposed to.
Right.
If you try and wrestle with your brain, well, when your mind fights the mind and one mind wins, you've still got your mind. You still got your original problem. So yoga uses the body and slows down the body, and that reflects back on the mind. And it's doing that through this parasympathetic system, specifically the dorsal vagal aspect of the parasympathetic system. That's quieting down the body, reflects back on the mind, and just like that, you have a deep meditation because all you did was slow down the breath.
It's super interesting because when my anxiety becomes very acute and very intense, I have to do these things where it's not just a meditation. I have some things to do. I have to squeeze my toes and then take some, and like the dealing of and then I go my legs and my arms and my core and my face, and like, it takes 20 minutes or it could take an hour if I wanted to, whatever it is. And that seems to always help because it seems like I'm dealing with all of these body things, but it's focusing my mind doesn't get to just run wild now, and then all of a sudden the non-running wild of it I think you just explained it, like tricks it and goes, nope, this.
That's right. That's right. Because of the 80-20 rule.
Right.
More signals. So it's kind of like your brain is the general.
Right.
And he only wants to send out one message to the troops. And so then the troops gather information on the field of battle, and they send back 20 messages to the brain, or it's actually, I think it's a 1-to-5 ratio.
Okay. Right. And the message is squeeze your toes as hard as you can. That's what the general's saying, right? And then the troops, okay, are like, okay, then this is happening. I feel this little toe and this there and this here and this. Da, 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 da. So, rather than the brain saying, okay, your arm's numb. Okay, your heart is racing. Okay, this, okay, that, which is what happens with anxiety, right? For me, anyway, that's what happens. And I start noticing like, oh, shit, I'm sweating. I'm hot. My heart's pounding. I can't breathe. And you have all of this stuff going out.
Right.
Right. And instead you're saying it switches. All the stuff's coming in.
That's right. Right.
So gathering information.
As you squeeze and relax, that relaxation message is coming back to the brain.
Right.
You're bit by bit, you're slowing things down. That's beautiful. It's perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't understand the method behind it. They were just like, it's like, do this. Right. Because we always want a cure to a symptom.
That's right.
Right. We always want it to go away.
Right.
So you said you have a YouTube channel and you teach all kinds of meditation. Is that right? So
right.
what other kinds are you doing? Like what, but I do mindfulness, like I said, what, talk to me, tell me more.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I was saying, the primary thing that I teach is heart rate variability, breathing. It's heart.
To bring it down or to bring it up as well? Do you bring it up or just down?
When you breathe in, the heart rate will speed up
right.
a little bit. And so we want to catch all of the relaxation on the out breath. And so one of the rules for the Holy Trinity, I'll give you guys the Holy Trinity of breath, okay? So 1, reduce the breath rate. 2, make the out breath a little bit longer. The reason is we're catching that relaxation and the stimulation of the dorsal vagal nerve on the out breath. And the third thing is to take out the pause, because if you pause too long at the top or the bottom of the breath, then you can mess up what you're trying to accomplish.
Did you say take out the pause?
Yeah, you want to take it out to really focus in on heart rate variability. So later on you can introduce pause, but to begin you really want to take it out because you want to concentrate just on the breath and make sure that you're really getting into heart rate variability.
Do you know Wim Hof?
Yeah, I know of Wim. Yeah.
He does. He has no pause, right?
He has no pause, but he's doing more of a purging breath.
Okay.
See, a deep diver, before he goes on his dive, he'll do a lot of breathing.
Okay.
And it's a little bit of a hyperventilation.
Oh yeah, I've done it. You get lightheaded and shit.
Yeah.
It's for the cold, right? He jump I love Wim a little bit.
Right.
He jumps
it's
in.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah.
I'm happy he's around. He's talking about yoga, but I worry about his predominance with the purging breath. That's like his one thing. And if you just have a purging breath, you can have experience, but I worry about the long-term effects of just doing a purging breath.
Give me an example of your breath that you're talking about. Can I see it?
Sure. So the threshold that I mentioned was 7 breaths per minute.
Right.
And so to do 7 breaths, you need a 4-second breath in, and then a 5-second breath out. All through the nose, because the body's designed to use a nasal breath. It's much more efficient for the body.
So then you would go immediately to another breath as soon as you finish the out, right? And does your stomach get big or does your stomach get small on the in? Which one is it?
Just normal. Your stomach might expand a little bit as your diaphragm makes room, but it's not anything laborious.
Okay.
It's a very, very relaxing breath. So it's just breathe in, 4 seconds, breathe out, 5 seconds, Then just keep going. 4 seconds in, just like that. And that's the beginning threshold for heart rate variability. You keep that up and your body will. So that's really fast for me.
Right.
The next, and that, so some of your listeners, that might be too fast for them. And so the next breath is 5 seconds in, 6 seconds out. So that's 6 seconds out. So that's a little bit longer. That might be more comfortable for some people.
Okay.
And then
sitting up on a cushion, like normal meditating?
That's right. So one of the instructions is not to infringe on the circumference of the rib cage. So you want to make sure that nothing is pressing against your rib cage, because it expands not only to the front, it also expands to the side, and it also expands to the back. And so if you wedge yourself in with a cushion which is below your rib cage, you can be really stable, but you're not infringing on the rib cage and the expansion of your lungs. You really want that to be nice and free.
Gotcha. I just figured out this cushion thing. I used to meditate laying down. I think mostly because during my terrible anxiety, like I had to lay down. I was losing my shit, so sitting, like I couldn't handle it. So I would lay down and do it. And then afterwards I just kept going. And then I tried sitting up once, and my hips, I couldn't take it. Like I just, but then I found a little bit higher of a cushion.
Nice.
So that my heels go below my hips. And now I can do it. So yeah.
That's the secret. You got to keep your sacrum higher than the knees.
Right.
And that will kind of push your spine up. You figured it out. That's beautiful.
Yeah, my friend Alex, who's he's this huge 6'8", like behemoth of a man, he's a Buddhist. So we went to a Buddhist, I don't know if it's a temple, it wasn't a temple, it was a house where they did, we meditated, we walked and stuff, and it was interesting, but it was 30 straight minutes of meditating. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this is awful. So I was like, I have to be able to figure this out somehow. So I did a little research, and now I'm all about the sitting and meditating. So
nice. That's fantastic.
That's
my secret. Just wedge the sacrum in your chair with a pillow or cushion.
Okay.
And that will solidify the rest of your back if you can just wedge in around the sacrum and the lower back.
Okay. So, and when did you decide so I'm taking, this is what you do for a living, right? Meditation and teaching right. Meditation. When did that happen for you? Like, because come on, man, that doesn't sound like the best life option.
No, well, it's a work in progress.
Right.
I was doing it informally for some time, and then I just started making more and more videos because I wanted to share more and more specifics about heart rate variability, resonant breathing, about the Holy Trinity of breath, about different components of meditation, and I'm just got kind of addicted to it. So it's really enjoyable to share the perspective that I've gained over time. So
I'm a believer in this. So I don't work. I haven't worked in a really long. I don't work because I love what I do.
Beautiful.
And the same thing, like people are like, dude, you're gonna teach people how to fight, and and not like traditional martial arts for kids, right? Just karate. And so, because before Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came along, martial arts for adults, like that was like, if you were still doing that, you were an idiot. Schools make tons of money off kids, but like not off of adults. Right. And most of our clientele, and it's changing, as we get more kids into it, but as adults, and that's insanity, right? You're going to get an adult to come to your school at 7:00 at night when they're normally home with their family or out or doing, and that's our model. And that would be crazy. That was craziness before, but now not so crazy. So I'm a believer in do what you love and then give it away, you know, and then show everyone what it is. So I don't want to go work for somebody 9-to-5 job so that I can do something for them and then have to come home and drink and be depressed and all, you know, and go down the rabbit hole. So, I hope I didn't come off offensive when I said it's not the best life decision.
Oh, no. It's true. It's not like, it's not like going into the stock market or, becoming a stockbroker. I don't know.
Or just a teacher or
regular job.
Regular job, you know? So, but I saw your hand, you lifted your hand. So you're married and your wife, what does your wife do? Is she
caretaker?
Okay.
She's a nurse.
Okay. And you have kids or no kids?
One kid.
One kid. How old?
She's going to be 3 this December.
Oh, right. You have a young child. Oh, yes.
Yeah, man, she's so full of energy. She's just amazing.
Yes, they are a work in progress always, right? They're always testing us, you know. I know mine, like they test our beliefs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so obviously this meditation thing is very important for you. Does your whole family do it? How does that work?
Yeah, everybody has their own version.
Okay.
But my daughter will come and sit with me when I'm meditating, which is great. Sometimes, not all the time.
Right.
She's asleep when I'm meditating, so that's my chance when she sleeps.
Right. And how long do you meditate for? I guess then, like, what does your day? What does that look like?
Right. If I can meditate for 2 hours at a time, in the morning and the evening, that's perfect. Sometimes
2 hours at a time.
If I can, I can't always do that. Sometimes it's less, and it's I don't recommend that at all for somebody who's beginning meditation.
Yeah, that would be impossible for me.
And a lot of people are like, I have to do this amount of time, and they'll ask me, what's the specific time I have to meditate? And it really is detrimental to work with meditation that way. You kind of have to set your minimum. That's what I recommend. And I have a video on this, actually. It's called Spiritual Survival. And so I talk about setting like a 5-minute minimum so you can build a habit every day. And then you're coming to it because you actually enjoy it. And so you've set something which is really small and easy to do. And then you just build on that based on how good you feel and how comfortable you are sitting. And how deeply you're getting into heart rate variability. That's going to make your meditation much, much more enjoyable. You're just gonna start picking up what I call are the meditative mellows.
Okay.
Body feels really good. It might start to tingle. Your lip might start to tingle. Your hands will get hot and heavy. All of this happens because of heart rate variability when you sit very still.
Okay. So yeah, because if you were going to tell someone they had to meditate for even 20 minutes, their very first time, it's not going to happen.
No, and you'll start to create a conflict internally, and it will become unenjoyable. I've seen people that have been meditating for years and they burned themselves out because it turned into a should and a have to, rather than I want to do this. This is enjoyable.
For me, I just know how much better I feel.
Exactly.
I'm like, it's just like everything, right? Like, take sugar out of your life. Take sugar out of your life, and sure, it's difficult in the beginning, but watch how much better you feel. And I'm addicted to sugar again. Even like the simple things, they might be a little difficult, but once you get them out or get them in, then it's like, oh man, this is just so much better. Like when I took sugar out for a month, all artificial sugar. I had zero stiffness.
Nice.
Like no joint stiffness whatsoever. And you're like, all right, like that's what hooks you, because we love sugar. I love sugar. It's amazing. It's amazing. And now I had this thing the other week. My family's Jewish. I have concentration camp surviving grandparents. They're now passed, but so Yom Kippur was a couple weeks ago. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to fast. And I'm going to fast not because I believe any of that stuff, but for them. And I'm a coffee addict. And man, I had a headache all day. I had
Wow.
a headache all day because I normally drink like 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day.
Right.
And now you can't have anything on Yom Kippur. You can't have coffee at all. So I'm sitting there going, oh my God, my head. So now I'm trying to get down on coffee. I'm like, okay, I can only have 2 cups a day because, again, like I shouldn't have a headache.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have a migraine.
Just because you stopped, right?
Because I stopped drinking coffee, right? for a day. So
That's great.
So yeah, like the meditation thing's the same thing,
Right.
right? Just watch. Yes, it's going to be hard in the beginning, but 5 minutes.
5 minutes, set your minimum, do it every day. You create a habit, the habit becomes your friend, and then you start to love it. You start to
Right.
notice how it's affecting your life. Things get easier. People come up, maybe your boss comes and yells at you, and you're like, and outside you're going, yes, sir, and inside you go,
Right.
I've still got my heart rate variability. I'm good. I'm set.
Yeah, man. Like what you just said, it stops somebody from having your day.
That's right.
Right? Like it stops. Nobody gets your day this way.
So it's a deeper level of self-reliance is what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like nobody can ruin my day. Are you kidding me?
That's right.
Fuck off.
That's
right. Like, and we all might be, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, right? But I might, like, you're married, I'm married. Shit's hard.
That's right.
Right? Like I'm sure both of us annoy the hell out of our wives.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that we're doing.
It's actually written into my job description.
Of course it is, right?
Like contract.
In the marriage contract, right? Like you won't cheat, you'll be there till sickness and health, and I'm gonna annoy the fuck out of you. Right? like those are the vows.
That's right.
But imagine how much, for me, I know it goes way better when no matter how bad she's being, that's annoying me, when I own my end of her annoying me, which is the only end that I can own, and I get there through meditation.
Yes.
Then I'm like, all right, word. You just go over there and be annoying. I'm still going to have an amazing day.
That's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And that's exactly what the Stoic philosophy says as well. Yeah.
It's extreme. And I'm big into Jocko Willink, who extreme ownership.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It's everything that happens in your life is your fault.
That's right.
Right? And then to me, and I came to, like, literally, man, I came to all of this through meditating.
Uh-huh.
Like just the 15 minutes or the 10 minutes in the beginning of the day and the 10 minutes at the end of the day when it was so bad of stillness.
Yes.
And like, I didn't do any of this. I didn't know how to do any of this at first. Like what you're talking about, the heart rate variability. I didn't have any feelings. I didn't have shit. All I knew was I had to get out of where I was.
Right.
Like, and like, okay, I'm not going to pray to Jesus or Muhammad or like that wasn't happening. I need something else.
Right.
And this is where it was.
Beautiful.
And now I came to all of this.
Yeah.
So you must have some data behind this and some deeper understanding than I do of the health benefits of all of this.
Well, the basic one is reduced cortisol, which is the stress hormone.
Right.
So, that's floating in your system. When you have stress, it's in there. And so with the reduction of your breath, you start getting the opposite. What is that? The serotonin?
Yeah.
You get increased serotonin, and you step into many more lucid moments. So you're, for example, a pro athlete or a fighter, you're going into the ring or something even, or maybe you're going into a golf competition. If you can sit down for 5 minutes or even just standing, reduce your breath rate to 7 breaths or less for 5 minutes, you're going to increase your chances for a successful moment by leagues and leagues, because now you're much more lucid. The body and the brain are functioning much more in line, and you're just going to increase your success exponentially.
And we know what cortisol does, right? Cortisol, the stress hormone, is going to build up, if you're talking about, like you brought up the athlete thing, cortisol is going to bring up lactic acid.
That's right.
And when your body gets filled with lactic acid, you're just done.
That's right.
You know, it's over. Like
Can't move, right?
you're done. You can't physically do anything to stop that. That it will end your performance.
Wow.
You know, because you're done. It's there for a reason.
You can't move correctly, correct?
What's that?
You can then not move correctly how you want to direct your body.
You can't even move, right? Like we've all worked, you've exercised to a point where, you know, the next day you're so sore that you're like, I couldn't exercise if I wanted to. That's just a lactic acid buildup. Right. Now with stress, when you add like massive amounts of stress to something, the cortisol dumps into you and you just, boom, you're just stuck. Wow. You're just stuck, you know, and it's the worst feeling in the world.
Wow.
You know, because now from my perspective in a fight, I've been there before. Like, I got super lucky. I choked the guy out. It was the round was ending and man, he taps right before the bell between the second and the third round.
Wow.
Man, if I didn't get that, when I was on the stool, like I'm not even on the stool, when the fight was over, like it ended there, like I couldn't see, and it wasn't this rush of excitement. I was done. Like, wow. But luckily for me, the fight had ended. Like, right. When I think about what would have happened in round 3, whew.
Wow.
I don't know, you know, but all of that came from not being able to stay very calm and not being able to control my breath beforehand, and like all of the nerves and the anxiety and all of that. And
wow.
Again, meditation has just led me to a much better place as an athlete, even. Like,
right.
You know, I'm going to win and I'm going to lose, but it's going to be on me.
Right.
It's going to be on my terms a little more.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So how did you know Ashley? Did she just meet you through the podcast? Because like she put us together. So.
No, actually, we took NLP classes together. So she had already taken a class before me, and then I was taking a class, and she was then.
What kind of class was that?
Neurolinguistic programming.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. So we both have this deep interest in the brain, and she also in health, and of course she's just a master at understanding health. So, but that was years ago, and we both took NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy. It was great. Great stuff. Yeah. That's where I met her.
That's where you met her. And you guys still stay in touch now, or?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the actual class that we were taking was hypnosis. And so part of the class was that we would, in hypnosis, all hypnosis, by the way, is self-hypnosis.
Okay.
By law. So you can't rob a bank and then say that somebody hypnotized you to rob the bank. That doesn't work. So all hypnosis by law is self-hypnosis. So all you have to do is follow the instructions of whoever's inducing you to go down closer to the subconscious and the unconscious mind.
You're still doing it.
Yeah. Do I don't do hypnosis.
No, I'm saying the person is still doing it. Like it's,
right.
Yes, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So we were inducing each other into these states of subconscious, and I think one of the things I can't remember if I told her or she told. I think it was she told me. She said, "I'm going to touch your shoulder, and when I do that, you're going to cluck like a chicken." And so, you know, I was in hypnosis following instructions, and so she would touch my shoulder, and I go, "Bah." And that became our joke, and anyway. That's the.
And then there's the friendship from there. You're gonna cluck like a chicken.
That's right.
Yeah. So, man, Forrest, I really appreciate this. I know sometimes, like I said, we don't know each other. This is our first meeting, and you probably Google me, and
I did, yeah.
You know, and you're like, God damn, I'm gonna talk to this fucking asshole.
Oh
right?
no.
So, but
this is great.
I appreciate you coming on, man, you know?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to stay in contact because I'm going to do this, you know, heart rate variability. I'm going to look on your YouTube and I might need some help. So, yeah. This podcast will come out next Monday, so I'll send it to you. If you could share it, that would be amazing.
I would love to.
Tell everyone where they can find your YouTube channel and like find all your stuff, your Instagram, your social media, whatever it is that you do?
Well, just so you're going to put out my name, and so you've just searched that name in YouTube, and you'll find me.
Okay.
And it's Forrest Knutson. So check out my videos. Check out Heart Rate Variability. There's one video I did recently, How to Stop the Mind Chatter. There's heart rate variability in that video as well. There's another video called Clinical Mindfulness. That one's very good. There's another one, Practical Meditation equals Heart Rate Variability Breathing. So that's the best place to start.
All right, the chatter, man. Everyone has that chatter, right? That chatter, that's a devil. That's a killer,
right?
That's a killer to us all, right? And we just have that chatter looping in our head.
Exactly.
And it just loops.
Really fun. You might like it yourself. There's some really fun, easy tricks to stop the mind just like that. And it doesn't mean that you can maintain it for hours on end, but you can get a taste of it. And that's really powerful. Then you get more of that self-reliance, more of that stoic self-reliance.
It's, it's the good crack.
It is.
That I call it,
Stuff right there.
Because once you get a taste of it, man, right? Once you go, oh shit, it stopped. It's such an amazing feeling.
It is.
It's such an amazing feeling when it goes. You're just like, oh, this. How do I do that again?
That's right.
Right. And I think that's what people are doing with drugs, right? They're stopping the chatter. That's what we're doing with all of it. Yeah.
Goes down. Yeah. But
that's why we drink. That's why we do whatever it is that we do, like, so that it can go, we can have that moment of peace.
Yeah.
But if you can do it without the crack, right? Without the alcohol, without the whatever it is you're doing to use it, that would be the first goal. That would be the best goal.
That's right.
So, man, I love that.
That meditation becomes your crack, and nobody knows it all day.
And now it's not necessarily bad for you. It's not going to also kill you.
It's the good stuff.
It's the good stuff. So, all right, Forrest, man, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Yep. Have a good day, everybody. And man, go do your thing and find your power.